Welcome to Film Rush.
Welcome back to Film Rush, everybody. Sorry about that little hiccup week in the middle there. I've been frantically writing like a coked-out gremlin, trying to get a book ready for a Twitter event happening next month amongst a bunch of other authors that I know and editors and whatnot. It's all very exciting. It's all very stressful, but we are here now today to talk about movies because this is going to be a little bit different than usual. Today we're going to be discussing the thing that everyone has already discussed, the Snyder Cut, or rather, Zack Snyder's Justice League. This big ol' fucking Snyder opus, a 4-hour cut of what he wanted Justice League to be, or at least close to, back when he was in charge and Warner Brothers didn't punish him for having a daughter, basically. So, you know, not to make light of the situation, obviously, I think Warner Brothers were big dicks back then. I'm not even a fan of the Snyderverse, and I think that the Whedon cut should have never happened anyway. But, Logan, how are you? Are you excited to talk about the Snyder Cut today?
Oh, man. Yeah, we have not recorded in 2 weeks, so I have missed this. It's like therapy. I felt the offness over the past couple of weeks. But yeah, John's been working on this really awesome book opportunity, and I had my wedding anniversary last weekend, and we jumped schedules around a couple of times, and so we ended up deciding it would be easier for both of us to skip last week. But that means this week we've got a lot to dive into. I'm excited to get to the 47 Ronin later tonight. That's I was texting John like, why am I watching 2 4-hour movies in 1 week? This is hell. So I'm excited to get to that. And then John's assignment kind of got fudged up. We had another situation with the BFG where it was on Disney Plus at the time that we assigned it, and then when John went to watch it, it was not there. So he got to call an audible, or I guess we called an audible, and he ended up going with something else. But the Snyder Cut, it came out, a week and a half ago, so I've only seen it the once. I've digested...
Watching it twice in even a week's time is
right.
a lot. That's 8 hours.
That's thought about doing that for Film Rush. I thought about okay, I'll watch it. I could watch it a second time and actually sit down and take some notes and stuff and remember things, but it was too daunting and it was too intimidating. So
yeah,
and I didn't. I'm still not on the overall positive side of things. So starting off with the Snyder Cut, we are going to get into spoilers. The whole thing tonight, we're just going to go straight into spoilers. We'll have some overall thoughts here right off the bat. So if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want spoilers, you could cautiously stay around for the next 3 or 4 minutes. But for the most part, we're going to be dropping spoilers right and left because it's a movie that's kind of been out for 3.5 years, so we kind of know major events, Superman coming back to life and stuff like that. Like, some of those things I don't feel bad about saying because, if you're listening to us, then you know what I mean? So,
if you're a nerd enough to listen to this podcast routinely
yes.
at all, then you've watched the Snyder Cut. If you haven't, go watch it and come back and subscribe.
Heyo. All right, so jumping straight in, John, let's start with just overall thoughts. What did you think about this particular cut in and of itself? And then when you look at the Whedon cut, how do you feel about this experience, this 4-hour epic?
Overall, it's funny to me how people are so surprised how much you can get done with 4 hours of movie. A lot of people are like, wow, there's so much in this movie. I'm like, it's 4 hours. It better have a lot of movie in it. So, I'm not going to necessarily give Snyder credit for having a lot in a 4-hour movie. But I will say this is leagues above Batman v Superman.
Leagues? I see what you did there.
Yeah. It's so far and away above Batman v Superman. And I don't really know why. Because as far as I know, it wasn't forced on Snyder to have Batman v Superman. Batman v Superman was a rushed film narratively, but he was always down to make that as the second movie. And it was always doomed to be garbage because it was too much, too soon, too quick, crammed together. But then you get this movie, which has to be an origin movie for The Flash, for Cyborg, for Aquaman, Martian Manhunter, spoilers we said, but whatever, he's barely in it, not really a spoiler to me. And it feels less broken than Batman v Superman did in that sense. I like Cyborg in this movie. I think it's well done. It's a good representation of the character. I love the decision of how they represented his brain when he's connecting to things and seeing things in his controls. I liked Barry. There's still some stutters on Flash. Both versions have different ones, but I think there's one in here that's not great for Flash. But other than that, I mean, man, Superman's a lot better too. I know, and not to put it all on the Whedon cut, but like the Superman in that was trying to be more of like the hopeful Superman, the Superman from the old Chris Reeves movies. It didn't fit Snyder's overall situation, and so Whedon injecting that version of Superman didn't work. This Superman still is not as much, I think, what Henry Cavill could do. If you give him some actual dialogue, I think Cavill would be a fantastic Superman. But this is a better representation, and it's a much better return in terms of his revival than the other one. And I think it all feels really superhero-y. People get brought back to life in the comic books all the time. You know, teams come together for random things.
MCU people can't seem to stay dead.
Yeah, people can't seem to stay dead. And like this is a Darkseid villain. Like, if you've read the comics or watched the old Justice League cartoons, or specifically Justice League Unlimited, you've seen a lot of Darkseid. You've seen a lot of Apocalypse and Granny Goodness and all of those characters in the Apocalypse New God universe. And this version of Steppenwolf would fit right into the comic books. Just whoop, right there. So, you know, it's not traditionally what Steppenwolf is in the comic books per se, but I think it fits. And he was way more intimidating than the Whedon cut anyway. Definitely. So I liked that as well.
Shimmering CGI suit was pretty sick looking.
Yes. It's funny to me that when that very first came out, when the image of that came out, people made fun of it. Like, people were like, oh no, he's got so many pokies on him, it looks so dumb, Zach. And now everyone's like, no, it's still better than the other one, though.
I think if it's a still, it does look silly because it gives your eyes time to really actually focus in and look at it, but it's not meant to be viewed that way because it's living metal, basically. Like, it's really, really cool when it's in motion. What's funny is his suit reminds me of those I don't remember what the right name for it is, but it's one of those garden things that spins around, and from certain angles you can see like different shapes and stuff. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I have no idea what those would be called though.
Yeah, I don't know, but
it's just like a weird illusion ornament you can have in your yard.
Right. Yes, that same kind of colorist and like eye illusion kind of thing. Anyway, moving on from that awkward point. My overall thoughts on the Snyder Cut of Justice League, I definitely think that it is 2 or 3 or 4 quality points above the Whedon cut. It did not have that horrible sanitized studio feel to it that Justice League did. I love
the disgusting color grading Whedon put on there for some reason.
Yeah, the red sky at the end and the drabbiness.
Well, that and like if you look at any of the Whedon footage, everyone's skin is fucking orange because they like warmed up the entire palette. Mm-hmm. Snyder's film is still pretty ugly looking. Sometimes it's great looking, but other times it's pretty ugly because it's really gray. Not a lot of colors. So Whedon tried to pop it up with a big ol' fucking film grade, color grade over it, and it just oversaturated the shit out of the wrong stuff. So I don't like it for that reason. But back to you.
Yeah. I think that some characters certainly got a much better story in this movie. I mean, obviously looking at folks like the Flash and like Cyborg, their stories I think were much better here because you actually got them.
Yeah, you actually got something.
Yeah, you actually get something of an origin story for Cyborg, and the Flash. It's not like you get an origin story. You don't watch the Flash get his powers, but it's kind of like the way they introed Spider-Man in Civil War. Like he's kind of already in action doing his own thing and gets taken up by the team. The team discovers him because they need him. So I think there were some elements from a storytelling perspective that were huge improvements. Oddly enough for me, the shit that I liked the most in this movie really didn't have much to do with the Justice League themselves. The 2 scenes that I thought were really well done. You've got the first Mother Box chase scene where the Amazonians are basically playing keep away hot potato with Steppenwolf coming in hot. Love that scene. Thought that was just really, really fun. It's kind of one of those things where, like, this is going to end with him getting the mother box, but the chase was so well drawn out, and they did so many cool things to keep the mother box away from him. That was great. And then the highlight of the whole movie for me was the old god battle, the first time Darkseid came to Earth.
When Diane is dumping the exposition bomb.
Yes. That to me, it's the best part of the movie, but to me it's also a symptom of the big problem with this movie. Like you said, it's too much, too fast, too quick. They basically tried to cram an entire, like, Marvel Phase 1 into one movie. And so there are some things in here that are visually awesome, but you don't know a damn thing about these people that you're seeing on screen. And there's no actual human connection with these people on screen. So I honestly think that they could have done an entire movie with these people and actually built them out and spent a movie or even 2 movies on the old gods, having the old King of Men and the old Atlanteans all coming together and stuff. I think that could have been more than just an 8 to 12 minute part of the movie. But I still loved it. I thought that was really, really cool. What else to say about the Snyder Cut from an overall perspective? I still have problems with the way that they used Wonder Woman and Batman. They're just not, there's something about these interpretations of the characters that don't spark any strong emotion in me. Mm-hmm. Batman in particular is the weakest of the whole Justice League, because he's basically Bruce Wayne in this movie until the very end when he needs to be Batman. I mean, he's in the suit a few times, but it just, there's something about it that just doesn't quite work for me.
He doesn't have like a physical presence is the problem for me.
Right.
So like Bruce Wayne's helpful. He gets them together. He bankrolls them. He's the Tony Stark of the Justice League. But where Tony Stark is just a person and he makes up for it by being in the metal suit and able to like do super stuff with that suit, Batman is kind of hindered by both the fact that he's not wearing as extensive of a suit as Iron Man, but also because everyone expects him to be the one we could all, in theory, be. The human amongst the gods who somehow, through his humanness, is still able to be useful. But in this situation, where it's literally the Justice League versus super aliens and a demigod who serves a new god, Batman realistically can do fuck all. And even when he's trying to like be self-sacrificial with his like Batmobile and shit, that all was just literally him buying time. He is inevitably going to die in that situation unless the others come and save him, which they do, which just proves he's pointless in this battle.
Yeah.
If his first move on the chessboard, the first thing he does is, I'm gonna go kill myself so you guys have time.
Pretty much.
Like, okay, then how are you gonna be helpful for the rest of this? He ends up, like, saving Barry after Barry got shot. Impossibly, by the way. There's no way that Barry, moving near the speed of light, gets shot by anything.
That was a really dumb moment.
Batman, like, kills the bug that shot Barry, so Barry only takes one shot instead of, being eviscerated. What follows is cool, but yeah, you would never get shot going that fast. It wouldn't be able to comprehend you to shoot you. But anyway,
they act like he's the Tony Stark of the team, but once the battles happen, they treat him like he's Hawkeye.
Yeah, Hawkeye's about the equivalent.
Do a whole lot, and he's kind of over on the sidelines being badass against onesie-twosie villains while everyone else is Hulk smash.
And that's the major problem with these movies, is that they don't understand Batman in that sense. In the cartoons and in the comic books, but mostly the cartoons growing up, Batman's always literally been the person, the human among Superman and Wonder Woman. But the thing is, he was the one literally strategizing. He was calling the shots. But who does that in this battle instead? Cyborg does. Sure, it makes sense. He's got a computer brain. Literally no one is smarter than Cyborg just because of that fact. But
he's got the internet up there.
But Batman is the strategist. He's the strategic leader of the group. Superman's the symbol. Wonder Woman's like the war chief. She's the one in charge of punching shit real hard. And that kind of leaves everyone else that in the background, but that's because they're the big three. That's the whole point. But as you said, Wonder Woman doesn't feel any more important than Aquaman, which it's not good because Aquaman is not all that helpful. He's helpful. He's good. He can hit shit hard, But whenever it comes down to Wonder Woman versus Steppenwolf with Aquaman in tow, they got their asses beat like every time. So what is he really bringing to the team if Wonder Woman could just get her ass beat by herself rather than with him? You know, if they're not going to win together but lose, there's no point to being together. They need Superman, but they forcibly weaken Wonder Woman for it. And I think that's dumb. Also, my God, Zach, stop with the slow motion.
Oh, I know. That was on my list of issues with the movie. Was what did we see online? 20 minutes of the whole movie is in slow motion or something, like a full 10%.
I was gonna say you could probably cut a half hour with the fucking slow mo. Jesus.
Yeah.
There are times where it's warranted, like mostly anything with the Flash. I mean, you could argue that's slow motion, but it is also
anything with Flash, fair.
Hyper fast because you're seeing what others can't. But like sometimes with Wonder Woman and Superman, I'd be able to see it. But like, I don't need slow motion with Cyborg, Aquaman. I don't need slow motion with someone just standing still. I don't need slow motion with the Amazonian battle. The problem I have with there are good things with the Amazonian battle at the beginning with Steppenwolf. I like the keep away game as well. I think that they have more screen time than they did in the Whedon cut, so I think that they are represented better as a culture and as warriors in this. But I think that their ferocity is undercut by the slow motion.
I would agree.
Because if you're seeing everything happen in slow motion, it doesn't feel as intense and as pressing. Like someone punching you across the face with a punch that you can hardly see is unnerving because you're like, oh shit, they can hit real fast. But if you watch them come at you with their fist for like 3 minutes,
yes,
it's less threatening. And that's just kind of how it feels with them. Like everything's happening in slow motion. I'm like, cool. They don't feel like they're really moving though. That's the problem.
He uses it too much, and he uses it in scenes where he doesn't need to use it, and that means that in the moments where it would be appropriate, the impact is lessened. He uses it in so many dramatic like character moments too. And in particular with the really sad, mopey music you hear in the movie. Like, I hated the score. The soundtrack. God awful, worst Zack Snyder song selections I've ever seen in my life.
Well, that, and they gave Wonder Woman some funky screaming music.
Oh, I hated her song.
The ladies in the background.
Yeah.
Whatever that was. I was like, she already had a theme song. Stick to it.
Yes.
And it pops up every time she does anything. Mm-hmm. Anytime Wonder Woman like lifts her fucking big toe.
Yep.
It's like, oh my god, I get it. Wonder Woman's here. Calm down, movie. Jesus Christ.
It's used too much. They should have just done different variations of the awesome guitar riff that she got.
Yeah. She already had that.
Yeah. And even that I think they didn't use...
That would get old if they did it every time.
Yeah, that's my point. Like, they can't use that every single time either. It's not like Wonder Woman walks into the room, like, no, like, it'd be funny.
Bruce, it's like, oh my god, what do you want? Go away, it's so loud.
It needs to only get used a couple of times, but so they need other filler music. But yeah, just the motifs for her, I thought was just annoying.
Yeah.
And right out the gate, the first time I heard it, I was like, oh god, please don't let this be her motif in this song or in this movie. And then it's like every time she comes on screen in any kind of awesome way. And they use it as like a build up, so you still get the guitar riff every time too, but it's usually like 3 minutes into the kind of crap.
It's terrible.
It's weird.
My wife was real upset whenever she does her final move on Steppenwolf before he goes through the portal, and the song hits right there. She's doing it, and wife's like, that just ruined it. She's like, I hate this motif, but this moment's so cool, and then she's like, it just ruined it. Yeah. Like, that sucks.
Right there with you. I thought that was rough. Let's see. We haven't mentioned the black suit. The black suit I thought was a really, really cool choice. I thought that's the thing. The best part of this whole movie, well, maybe not the best part, but the only character to me that's completely perfectly cast is Superman.
Yes.
Henry Cavill as Superman. Everyone else could go. He is great. And in that black suit, that looked really, really cool. So I thought, because the black suit was not in He was wearing the red and the blue in the Whedon cut, right?
in the Whedon Justice League. The Justice League. They recolored it artificially using computers. Hello, John here from Film Rush. Wanted to just jump in real quick and bring about a correction. I have since learned that Snyder filmed the red and blue suit on set, and then he chose to make it the black suit. I'm not sure when this decision was made by him and his team, whether it was after the Joss cut or before the Joss cut. But either way, wanted to make sure that the information presented to you was accurate and let you know that it was all filmed red and blue, and Zach later decided it's time to go black, baby. So there you go, and enjoy the rest of the episode. Hope you're having a good time. I like that Snyder uses the black suit, and he uses it the way the comic books do-ish. In the way the comics, Superman is put in the black suit intentionally by his robot assistants in his Fortress of Solitude, because the black suit absorbs radiation from the sun quicker and thus wakes him up faster from his, not death in the comic books, his healing sleep.
Yeah, it's a...
I know it sounds terrible.
It's a regen suit for him.
But yeah, so, and I like that they reference it because he puts it on and you're like, well, why'd you wear that instead of the blue and red suit, which we do see in that ship, but he puts on the black suit. Why? Well, he shoots immediately up to the sun and starts absorbing the sunlight from space. And I'm like, yes! Cool, you didn't... So that's when I appreciate Snyder, because the problem with Snyder is a lot of the times he's all visuals, no substance.
Yep.
He's got that Michael Bay tendency.
Yes.
But, and I saw the black suit in the trailers, and I was like, oh, fuck. Did Snyder just put him in the black suit because he's like, I like black because it's edgy? Or is he actually going to use it? And he technically did. He went to space, used the sun, so the suit was used for the comic book reason, rather than just... Snyder being all rock hard about edgy stuff. I
thought the suit looked great. I still don't think Superman got enough to do in the movie. Like, I understand needed to be...
He's an afterthought.
Yeah, I understand he needed to be dead, but, the scene where he picks out the suit really annoyed me because it visually looked great, but I got really bothered by the unnecessary double dad narration that was happening.
Yeah. I don't need the Destiny talk every time Superman's on screen.
Yeah.
I don't need to hear about how he is Jesus. It's like, I get it. He's special. Move on. Yep. I'm even a Superman fan. Like, Superman's my number one superhero. Always will be. And Henry Cavill's the perfect Superman. I ride till I die. But I don't need the Superman Destiny talk every single goddamn time.
Yeah, I agree. I think they either should have had Lois there and they could have walked down the hallway together and he could have been telling her about here's what all these suits could do or something, or have him talk to the assistant, the AI, the Jarvis, basically.
I mean, or give Lois anything to do, because holy shit, she has nothing to do. Except be the grief girl that Superman can come back to, and she can fix his brain, because his heart likes her. It's super insulting to Lois' character. Granted, they kind of wedged themselves into a situation where she's literally just his emotional crux. That's it.
Yep.
The only relevance Lois has to the plot at all is that in the future, she's the key. Because Superman thinks she's real neat. And that's it. And I'm like, but Lois is so much cooler than that in the comic books. And in the actual storyline that Snyder's referencing, where the Atlanteans and the Amazons go to war and basically end the world, Lois is the most insane, behind enemy lines reporter. To the point where she pretty much puts herself in every possible near-death situation to get the story. That is what I want from Lois. I want the Lois that, Superman goes out and does dangerous stuff, and he's like, Lois, stay here. Don't go into the danger. And she's like, okay, I won't. He flies away, and she's like, fuck you. And she goes in and gets the story, because that's what she does. She doesn't just fucking weep at Superman's grave every day after he died and resign herself to an eternity of mediocre existence.
Yeah, I agree. It's frustrating because this isn't the first time that they've done this to Lois. They did this to her in Batman v Superman, where
Yeah.
It's like how they treated Padme in the third movie. Like, she goes from being badass in the first and second movie, Padme specifically, and then in the third movie they just put her in long dresses and braided hair and make her like sad and mopey.
She cries
the whole
while
time.
Anakin commits genocide.
Yes, and that's
Yeah.
that's the same thing they do with Lois. Like in Man of Steel, she's doing some pretty illegal, badass kind of reporting stuff, and then in Batman v Superman, you pretty much only see her in their apartment when he's coming to visit her on the balcony, or like when she's naked in the bathtub. Like, that's really it. Like, I mean, obviously she's on the ground during the big battle at the end, but does she really matter there? No.
No. And even, yeah, she gets more reporting stuff in the extended cut. I know. But that's the extended cut, not the theatrical cut. So the version that we first saw makes Lois pointless, and thus I don't like the movie. So that's that.
And I have not seen the extended cut of Batman v Superman yet.
I refuse. So I probably will have to watch it someday, but I refuse.
Can't comment on footage I have not seen.
Speaking of terrible representation of women, the scene I was talking about with Barry, that's really kind of a problem for me, that people seem to be split on. It's the scene where he's trying to get the dog job.
Yeah.
And like, there's some good
there.
moments in this scene, but like, so you see Iris. And no one can drive, by the way, in this movie. The guy drops a sandwich and proceeds to put everyone's life in danger to get his sandwich back. And Iris can't take her eyes off that juicy white boy in the dog store. And so they collide into each other on the road, and Barry booms out to save her. And I like how his powers work, in the sense that he's so fast, he ripples and breaks shit. He goes through the glass like water. Awesome. Love it. Then he touches Iris a lot while she's just kind of paused in front of him. And it's just real weird. She stared at him to the point where she gets into a car accident, and then he like caresses her and stares into her eyes that are looking forward, lifeless as she's stuck in time. And it's just a real weird scene. I liked the hot dog payoff. I even was like, is he going to grab a hot dog? I thought he was going to get one to get a snack because he's a poor kid. He's also the Flash and has to eat all the time. He even references this later. So I thought he was going to eat the hot dog. But I liked they subverted my expectations on that. So I did enjoy that when he gives it to the dogs. But yeah, the Iris rescue was just like, man, that's weird. Stop touching her. Take her to the ground and then go home. Put her into safety and then leave. Don't touch her.
The staring just felt so uncomfortable. Like, that's so unrealistic. Like, even in a superhero movie, this is breaking breaking the rules here for me, because it's so unrealistic.
It's not like they're destined for each other. Iris and Barry just like each other, like two humans do in the comics. They meet, they go on a date, and they decide they like each other. They don't meet eyes and then immediately become obsessed with each other.
Right.
Like they do in this movie. And then you never see her again. It's so fucking weird.
Never see her again, and does she even say a word? Does she get any dialogue?
I'm fairly certain she doesn't get anything.
I don't think she does. And yeah, I mean, it's a Zack Snyder movie, so talking about awful representation of women, I am struggling to think of a single time this 4-hour movie passes the Bechdel test, because there's very few women in the movie, and when there are women in the movie, they're rarely interacting with each other, and when they are interacting with each other, they're pretty much all talking about a dude. And it's usually either Superman or Steppenwolf. It's always he is coming, or he hasn't accepted his responsibility at Aquaman, or, whatever. It's always about these evil dudes who are coming, or these good guys who aren't pulling up their weight yet. Yeah. And even with an entire island of women, they still seem to only be able to talk about Steppenwolf in every conversation that they're having. And so that's an issue for me. I do think that the way that this movie represents women is better than the Whedon cut, because the Whedon cut literally had a Wonder Woman skirt shot.
Well, and they had Barry's face in her boobs at one point.
Oh, yeah.
And he had to get up and he was all embarrassed. Yeah, they cut that out because fuck that. That's stupid.
Oh, that was so bad. I forgot about that. But yeah, I was thinking about the scene where Wonder Woman's like slow motion jumping up into the air because, this one Wonder Woman can't fly for some reason, I guess. But
she can't fly, but she can move at super speed, which is not really a power she has. Granted, she can block bullets in the comic books, so I'll accept that they'll just say she has super speed. But we really need to decide whether or not Wonder Woman can fly, people. We need to make this decision and stick with it.
Yeah, like, she can fly and float just like Superman can. Like,
in some versions, not every version has her flying. That's the thing that super sucks. But yeah, well, speaking of women that are terribly represented, what did you think of the really overly long, unnecessary, and uncomfortable time when the lady sang about Aquaman? For way too long.
Yes, it kind of had that Lord of the Ringsy kind of thing to it. I think that's what he was going for, or something.
Uncomfortable. She smelled his sweater.
Yeah, it made me think. Wait, does Aquaman fuck these people when he brings them fish?
Yeah, is he getting around town?
'Cause
like, is she in love with him? Who is this woman? Why am I spending so much of the screen on this random person?
Yeah, like, I don't mind if Aquaman, has friends with benefits. Like, I don't have any issues with that at all.
Pretty well endowed fellow.
Superheroes need to have sex too. Like, they're people. Like, I get it, but it's one of those things where I don't think that's what the movie wanted me to think. But as soon as you have a woman singing for 4 minutes while sniffing this guy's sweater after watching him jump shirtless into the ocean and slow motion,
they either fucked or she's really unhealthy about her obsession.
And it's Snyder, and he's made Sucker Punch, and he does have a very sexualized movie style. I mean, 300 and Watchmen, like, he's got a very sexualized style to his artwork, and I don't know. I think sometimes there are so many unnecessary scenes like that I'm like, did Snyder make this just so he could jerk off to it later? Like, is that the only reason it's in here? Because it feels that way. Like, I feel like Snyder's behind me masturbating watching these scenes, and I don't get it.
Loves Aquaman.
Because there's no point to it. Like, there's
it doesn't
no
come
purpose.
up later. This village is not important to Aquaman later. It's not like it's a village that becomes threatened by Steppenwolf later.
Right,
it's just the place we see him and he's at until we convince him to join the team. That's just where he is until he isn't.
Yep.
And so it's not important. It's dumb. Aquaman litters. I don't understand that.
The glass bottle.
Yeah, he tosses the glass bottle. I guess it's an FU to the Atlanteans who he doesn't like yet. I liked that they restored, what's his name? Green Goblin, that actor.
Willem Dafoe's character.
They restored him to the film.
Vulcan, I can't.
Something
I think it's
like
Volko.
that. His long hair is hilarious to me because I've never seen Willem Dafoe with that much of a mane. But like, I'm glad he's back. And the dolphin talk from the Atlanteans when they're underwater, because they hadn't done Aquaman yet, and in Aquaman, the director chose to just go, you know what? No, they can just talk underwater.
Yeah,
let's just make our lives easier. They can talk underwater. They can breathe underwater. Let's just break the rules. Which I appreciate, and I like that much better than what we end up getting, because what we end up getting is when they're underwater, they talk like dolphins. They're like brah, 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 towards each other, and it's really weird, uncomfortable. Or they make a big bubble around themselves so they can talk in the air, but it ends up looking like a fucking Microsoft Windows movie editor effect behind them. The scene where she talks to Aquaman after their fight with Steppenwolf is so ugly. It is intensely ugly. It looks like it came out of 2001, and it's just the year, not the movie. It just looks terrible.
She doesn't. Her character design, like, it's just one of those things where the DCEU is so broken that the continuity between movies is so garbage. Like, look at her hair color as an example of they couldn't even get continuity like that right.
Well, the problem is that she's wearing a red wig. Snyder just desaturates the fuck out of his footage so hard, you can't even tell she's a redhead.
Barely.
That's the problem with his color palette.
And I think her hair is too bright red in Aquaman.
It's too far the other direction, in Aquaman, but it needs to be red.
We need a middle. We need some kind of a middle. And I get it, when you have red hair and you're in your mid-30s, because you're not going to have this bright red hair by the time you get to her age, and you've been wet, so wet hair will look darker, but it still looked brunette to me. It didn't look like a wet, red-headed look. It looked like a brunette to me. So I thought that looked a little bit awkward. The whole Atlantis thing felt like it just got underserved.
For sure.
Because the Amazonians got, like, it felt like 3 times the amount of screen time than the Atlantean scene did when it comes to the mother box chases.
I will say, Mira did get another example of her power being awesome. I don't like Amber Heard. Cut her, move her, remove her, go away. I hate her. Well, I don't hate her. I don't have that much in my heart for her, but she needs to go away. I don't like her. But Mira, as the character, got to pull blood out of Steppenwolf's face using her like waterbending powers, and I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
That was good. I liked Steppenwolf's...
The Avatar fan in me was like, blood.
Yeah, I liked because she gets like the wine scene in Aquaman with her powers.
Yeah,
so she's 2 for 2, getting like one cool moment with her powers, kind of thing. I liked Steppenwolf's reaction. Like at first, it's just water coming out of him, and he's like confused. He's like, "What's happening to my face?" And then the blood starts coming out, and he's like, "Oh no, fuck that!" and like tosses her aside. This is like exactly the appropriate reaction when someone starts pulling your blood out of your skin.
That was very well done. I love that scene. I forgot about that. One of those cool details in a 4-hour movie that just kind of glazes by you. But yeah, that was definitely a cool scene. Let's see what else. You mentioned Martian Manhunter. I'll touch on that since we're kind of going through characters. I love Martian Manhunter. I always say that he should be one of the core Justice League people. And I'm bummed by this one.
Yeah.
The whole thing was so contrived, and it leads to so many awkward questions. Like, eventually Lois is going to talk to her mother-in-law and be like,
remember
hey,
that conversation we had?
by.
She's like, no.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that. The moment he revealed it was Martian Manhunter, I was like, that's not... Zach, I see what you got. You're like, he shifts forms and he manipulates things in the background. You're right. But I've never seen Martian Manhunter like forcibly have an uncomfortably emotional conversation with someone like Lois to instigate the events like that. No, he's like the guy who becomes a coworker of hers to like prod her with a few poignant questions, and then he disappears in the background. He's not someone you're going to recall later as having this prolific conversation with, like she does with her mother-in-law, in a situation where she's absolutely going to ask her mother-in-law about it later, and they're going to realize it was Martian Manhunter because, assumedly, later down the road, he joins the team and they learn his powers, and they're like, wait a minute. Yo, Johns, did you, fucking pose as Martha Kent? Martha Martian Manhunter Kent? Martha Martian Manhunter. Yo. Martha Manhunter Martian. You need, if you haven't seen it, just real quick, you need to check out How It Should Have Ended regarding the Snyder Cut.
Oh, I've seen the thumbnail. Have not watched the video yet. I'll do that tonight.
You need to. Okay. Oh my God, I died laughing.
After we record, I'll go do that.
Anybody who wants to see it, check out How It Should Have Ended on YouTube, Snyder Justice League. It's fucking hilarious. But yeah. That I think Martian Manhunter was very underused, and honestly, I would have been okay with him just being a reveal at the end. Yeah,
even that scene was the most awkward one of the most awkward conversations in the movie. From a story structure standpoint, I think you should have just left him cut. I think this is one of... I honestly think you could have made a 3-hour version of this. Once you've cut out Martian Manhunter, once you've cut out the women singing and some of the slow motion...
once you cut out the ha ha ha,
15 minutes at the end that didn't need to be in there. This could have been a 3-hour movie with some of the worst parts edited down, not necessarily completely chopped. But the Martian Manhunter pisses me off. Couple thoughts with that. I already mentioned the how few women are in this movie. One of the most important a woman talking to another woman scenes in the movie gets completely undercut because it's not even actually a woman. It's actually a dude. It's a dude emotionally manipulating the fuck out of this stranger. And I just...
Yeah, those scenes are always tricky too because like it feels... So that means that Martha Kent hasn't had any of those realizations herself as a person.
Sure.
Martha Kent hasn't come to any of the conclusions that Martian Manhunter put forward to Lois as life lessons. Which means the next time we see Martha Kent, we perceive her differently
as having grown
as a character,
but she hasn't actually had that growth.
But she hasn't. Yep. And so this is a narrative problem for anybody who tries to do Martian Manhunter. I'm not saying that it was just Zach who fucked this up. it's gonna be a problem. But that's why most of the time when Martian Manhunter is in disguise, it's either as a temporary character, a no-name person, or he's manipulating the bad guys by posing as one of them. Like someone who it's okay to like give false representation of.
Yeah.
But with Martha Kent, we only get so much time with her as a character, so what little we get is big for her. It's kind of like Spider-Man's aunt in the Marvel movies. We get very little of her, and so every scene with her is a big piece of her character. And you know that this means like there's like 3 scenes with Martha Kent, and one of them isn't even her.
Yeah.
And that's just weird.
She already knew the human side of Martian Manhunt. I can't remember his name, but the government agent guy.
It's the Admiral guy.
The Admiral,
Man of Steel,
the military dude. She already had a relationship with him, so it wouldn't have been a stretch if he had just appeared and talked to her straight up as himself, you know what I mean, or appear as the police officer if he's gonna have to take over someone's form, shapeshift, go be the cop that she takes coffee to on a daily basis, and have that guy as, you know, Martian Manhunter deliver a inspirational talk kind of thing.
Or if you're not Snyder and you don't shoot everything in the face with guns. It could have just been Jimmy Olsen.
I forgot that character already came and went.
You want someone to convince Lois to get out of her funk and to come back to work? Get her photographer partner to come talk to her and get her to come back to work. Jimmy is important to Lois and to Superman. He's a very important character to that whole lexicon. But Zack Snyder has this fetish with just shooting people in the face.
Yeah.
So that's why we're here. Otherwise, it should have just been Jimmy Olsen in that scene. That's just it.
So, all right. So let me. So I'm gonna take that phrase and jump on it. So why are we here? Is this the Injustice story? Is that
pretty much? That's what Snyder's boner is about. Pretty much.
That's just so
Snyder
disappointing.
really he's got a huge boner for evil Superman, and I get it. The appeal of a pure, in theory, perfect person being corrupted is cool. And I know the Injustice games were very popular for a reason. But I don't feel like Henry Cavill has even gotten enough time to be the good Superman.
No.
And we're already cramming him into being evil Superman. And it's all because his wife dies. Yes, that's bad. Yes, part of John Wick's motivation in those movies is that his wife dies. It's a huge factor in someone's life. But you're telling me that Lois dies and Superman literally burns Earth to the fucking ground.
Yeah.
Like, that, it seems like one step too far, at least. You know, there needs to be a more natural progression from, like, I'm going to save the Earth to I'm literally going to instigate its destruction. And the only thing between that is I lost someone.
Yeah, I don't know, because Injustice came out in, like, 2014, and Injustice 2 came out, I think, in 2017, so the fucking video game came out 6 months before this movie came out in 2017.
Yeah.
And it's so ridiculous to me. There's so many stories you could tell with the Justice League. Why do we have to, one, lean into Marvel with an alien invasion and one big, like, purplish bad guy? I know Thanos is based on, like, or not based on Darkseid, but I know Darkseid was first. I know that, and I love Darkseid, but do we have to start there? Like, you've got the alien invasion thing already in the first Avengers movie. There's got to be different threats that we could face other than a fucking alien invasion. It's every fucking superhero movie these days. Not everyone, but it's so done. Like, give me something new and original and fresh with your big team up with Justice League, because there's so many things that you could do with it. I'm tired of it being like, okay, we got to have this giant faceless alien army invading. It happens so often. At least it's not a big giant evil cloud. That was a big theme like 10 years ago.
Yeah, for some reason, like the Fantastic 2.
Yeah,
Fantastic
and then there was,
Four 2.
Green Lantern had that.
Oof.
So it at least it's not that, but I don't know. I just feel like you've got to have something different. I feel like Brainiac could have been a much better Justice League villain at first, or something, or someone. I don't know.
Yeah, Brainiac would have been more. It would have made more sense to have Brainiac, because the whole theme from Man of Steel all the way to Batman v Superman, which is just 2 movies, is that Kryptonians, everyone fears Kryptonians. Fears everything to do with Superman. They love him, but also he's terrifying. And I get it. I would love Superman if he existed in real life. I would also be terrified because motherfucker is a nuke. he's all the nukes all at once times 1,000. So like he could do whatever he wants. So that is terrifying. What would compound people's fear for Kryptonians on top of what we've already experienced? Brainiac is from Krypton. That would be an existential crisis for Superman, it'd be an existential crisis for Earth, and in theory, because the fear for Kryptonians is compounding all the time, people are afraid of Superman and Man of Steel, they're afraid of the terrible troll in Batman v Superman that I refuse to acknowledge as Doomsday. That's Kryptonian, so they fear that. Then you get Brainiac, which they fear in Justice League, and so the Earth keeps having more and more reasons to be scared of Superman, and that's what keeps pushing him to the point where he's eventually a villain, because it gets to the point where he's like, well, if everyone's just going to fear me, and Lois is now dead, I guess fuck you guys. So that would have felt more realistic. Now, we need Superman to be good because Darkseid's coming. We're trying to push him in the other direction rather than the injustice direction. It's just Snyder being all like, yeah, wouldn't it be cool? In my movie, Batman could get raped in prison. That's the person we're dealing with.
Fuck, I forgot about that one too.
That's the person. That's an interview Zack Snyder had where he said in his Batman movie. That was a while
back, right?
It was, and maybe he's grown, and maybe he's like, that was a weird statement for me to make. I don't know. He's never acknowledged it since, but he said that, which means that he has a very particular view of these characters, and nothing's going to stop him. And that's fine. This movie's better than the Justice League, but I'm not necessarily interested to see where it goes because I think the nightmares have already shown it. Superman goes bad, ruins the world. Batman and Joker team up. In some versions of their multiverse, they fail, and they all die. But the Flash keeps resetting time every time they fail so that they can try again till they eventually succeed and save the world. Woo! Now I know that plot is all known to me now. I don't need what's coming next because Snyder's already given it all away in his juicy little fucking Batman nightmares. These aren't regular prophecies; they're Bat prophecies.
It's too much, too quick. It's you're trying to rush ahead. How do I explain this? They basically tried to skip the first couple phases that Marvel built in. And I think by doing that, you sacrifice a lot of quality and a lot of character attachments. And I think, for example, like if you would had, I'll compare Cyborg to Black Panther in terms of they bring really cool tech to the team. Having Cyborg be a team member right off the bat, I think undercut some of the brainy intelligence you've got with Batman. And so I would rather see Batman be the strategist for the first couple movies, and then after 8 years or 5 years, bring Cyborg in.
I mean, even the cartoons do this better though. When there's Batman and Cyborg involved, Cyborg sometimes will recruit Batman in the comics,
right?
Because he's a good strategist.
Yep.
Because while Cyborg literally knows everything, that doesn't mean he can conceive the information in a way to form a strategy the same way Batman would.
Yes.
And so he can still have utility. It just requires you to know how to write them. Both smart, but different smart. But I think Snyder knows how to write smart one way. And so he writes the smart character that way. And then this movie basically acknowledges, what is Batman's purpose? I'm rich. That's what he said. That's what he says to Barry. What's your superpower? I'm rich. That's it. Not that I'm rich and I'm a genius and I'm also impossibly in perfect human condition, as is the comic book's MO. Yeah. But it's that he's rich. That's it.
It's such a flat response compared to genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist. It's just so disappointingly flat from Batman.
What's bummer to me is there's like a glimmer of good in Batman in this movie, in the sense that in his interactions with Diane, with Wonder Woman, a lot of the times Ben Affleck plays it where he just kind of responds plainly. He doesn't mince words. He's very upfront with Wonder Woman, and she is to him. But then, like, when Barry asks him something like, you have a satellite? Batman will just turn to him and be like,
I have 6.
and he'll turn away. And I don't know, maybe it's just me reading into it, but I always felt like in the movie, if Wonder Woman had asked that question, you have a satellite? He would have been like, yeah. But since Barry asked it, Batman has to like flex a little, and he's like, I have 6 satellites.
The funny one asked me a question. I must be funny back.
Well, yeah, but like I like that Batman has that kind of relationship with Flash, where like
I liked that line.
That's a little bit
joke I liked.
Yeah, coy with the Flash, and yet he's more straight up with Wonder Woman. I like that. But yes, Batman needs to be smarter. Batman needs to be more relevant. He takes a back seat, and it's dumb.
I mean, everything that I want would completely rewrite the DCEU, but I honestly, they're again echoing with Batman the Tony Starkisms in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because you've got Batman, he's brooding, he knows there's this attack coming from outer space, but he doesn't know when it's going to happen or who's going to do it, but he just knows it's going to happen, so we need to assemble a team. And that's literally like why Age of Ultron happened, is because Tony Stark literally had that exact same thought. I think this would have been way more intriguing if you had given that particular character element to Lex Luthor. If Lex Luthor was actually a pretty good, decent guy at the beginning, maybe a little bit more on the shady side, maybe you don't fully trust him, but he's a good guy, this big alien invasion happened, and he's freaking out, and so he's trying to work with the Justice League to, build a shield around the Earth kind of thing, but then for some reason doesn't trust them and decides that he needs to protect the Earth from the Justice League too, or from the Justice League. I think that could have been all right, Lex Luthor was a good guy, we trusted him, but then he turned on us, and he's trying to turn the world against us too. I think that is much more of a real Lex Luthor than what we got.
Oh, for sure.
And I think that would have taken that, oh, I'm Batman and I'm sad that there's an alien invasion coming, away from this Batfleck, because that's not Batman. That's just not the kind of worrying that he does, in my opinion.
And he's not religious. How about the fact that throughout this movie, every answer he gives to Alfred about why he's doing what he's doing is faith, Alfred. I have faith. Oh. I'm like, what are you the Church of Superman
faith
now?
Like Superman.
Yeah, like I know I keep saying he is Jesus, but he's not Jesus. Stop.
Our moms are named the same, Alfred. Just let me have this.
He's my brother from another Martha.
Martha. What did you say that name? Why did you say that name? Your mom's name's like my mom's name.
All right, well, 50 minutes of discussing the Snyder Cut. So I'm just gonna real quick say, Flash reversing time to save the world, like it, awesome, cool. Good reference to.
Did it better than Superman did back in the day.
Yeah, Superman cutting off Steppenwolf's fucking horn with his heat vision,
badass. Brutal.
Badass, awesome. The dark side representation was mediocre. Even the performance and the CGI was not that great. Thanos is leagues above better. And one final thought on it all. I probably won't watch it again. If I do, I'll watch it sparingly in pieces that I choose. And it's better than Justice League. Justice League is like 5 or 4 out of 10, mediocre or bad. I would say that this is 6 to 7. Like it's competent enough. It's better than what we got, but it's nowhere near the quality that we can expect from superhero content today.
Completely fair. I want to jump into my score, but let me massage this out for a second. Okay, so overall thoughts. I really didn't care for the first 20 minutes. It was really hard for me to get into this movie. I was kind of shit texting John for half an hour, and then I was like, okay, I need to just put the phone down and shut up and watch the movie.
I need to actually pay attention.
But man, there's so many small things about this movie that just pissed me off. I did not like the 10-minute long Superman wave screams at the beginning of the movie. That just like it didn't need to be there. It was too long, didn't need to be there. I did appreciate that they blended, because you have like the end of Man of Steel is at the beginning of Batman v Superman, and I liked how the end of Batman v Superman is at the beginning of this. I think you could have done that without the endless Superman wave screams. I thought that was silly. But other than that, once we kind of got past that opening credit kind of scene, everything from there, I was like, okay, all right, that was a little bit better, and that was a little bit better, and well, that was definitely a little bit better. And I kind of just kept saying that throughout the movie. So I gave the first Justice League a 1 out of 10. I hated that thing.
Oof.
This one I gave it a 5. If I watched it again, I might go up to a 6 or 7, maybe. I have a hard time wanting to go on the more positive side of the scale because I don't want them to make more movies like this. I don't want this to be a precedent. I don't want the Ayer cut of Suicide Squad.
No, fucking stop this now, please. Just because one director got to finish their cut doesn't mean that every director was someone who knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
Not to say Warner Brothers knows what they're doing instead, but we don't need that. I don't need the fucking, what is it, the cut for Batman and Robin, that director.
Schumacher.
I don't need the Schumacher cut and shit. You know, like, I don't need that. Go away.
I don't want Rian Johnson's episode 9, you know, like,
no.
I don't need that. And I don't want this to be a precedent. To me, I can excuse this situation for one reason and one reason only. And that being the awful family situation that he was in that caused him to step away. Whether or not he was already going to be fired or not, I'm not even going to get into that. But the fact that, he had a terrible family tragedy take place, to me is like, okay, all right, let's give him a chance here to fix this. Cause it's not like he was fully invested, giving it his full time, full effort and made a shit movie. And then we still give him another chance. To me, this was a situation where he was set up to fail long before he stepped away from the project. And I think that was, horrible for the movie, but the right thing to do for him and for his family. So I am glad for him, even though I don't care for him all that much. I'm glad for him that he got this opportunity. I just don't want this to be precedent. So there's still so many issues with this. I genuinely think 25% of this runtime could have been cut out. So I'm sticking with the 5 out of 10 for now for this movie. I may change my mind if I rewatch it, but now that we've talked about the movie, can we just very quickly touch on the unnecessary 15-minute end scene before we jump on? Because I really want to know what you have to say about Jared Leto's Joker scene. I don't care about anything else that happens in that vision, but I want to know what you think about Jared Leto's Joker, because you are a Joker fanatic and I'm a big fan. So talk to me.
Jared Leto's Joker sucks. In pretty much every regard.
All right, we're on the same page.
I'm okay with interpretations of the Joker. Madness can be perceived in many ways. I myself have spent a long time trying to figure out if I had a chance to write Joker, perform Joker, anything Joker, what would be my vision, what would be my point of view. And it's difficult because we've gotten so many versions of Joker, from Heath Ledger to Mark Hamill to different versions in the comic books to different versions in animation. There are definitive ones, there are hidden gems, there's outright terrible ones. The Batman cartoon from like 2005 or something like that had a dreadlock Joker that was voiced by a very talented man, but I think that Joker is the worst aside from Jared Leto's. And the reason Jared Leto's is just bad is because he's not playing, in my opinion, Joker who is mad. He's just playing a crazy person. And that doesn't work. It's hard to critique and to say, like, well, if he had just done it this way, it would have been a good Joker. Well, no, I think the problem is he built it up from the wrong foundation. He's just crazy. He's just a weird guy. Because Joker does not say things like, well, who's going to give you a reach around? Like, I know Lego Batman played up the whole, like, kind of gay relationship between Batman and Joker, but it's a Lego animation movie. Like, it's kind of supposed to be off the wall and weird. And it is both, it's both a good representation of Joker and also a poignant perspective on their relationship, but it's still silly. Joker does not want to actually jerk Batman off.
Right.
So stop it.
It's crass language for crass language's sake, and it's not even all that funny.
No, it's not funny. His laugh is uninspired and kind of lazy.
Oh gosh, it's the worst.
Design has always been terrible. Even this redesign from the version we had before is still terrible. And his mouth, maybe they're going with, like, his mouth looks like a gaping wound. I don't get why you would want the Joker's mouth to look like that. Like, Heath Ledger did the whole self-application look, but that had, like, purpose. He's the one who puts the makeup on himself. But this Joker is bleached. He has fallen in the pit. His skin is white. So his skin is always just white. It's not makeup. And then he applies this, like, fucking lipstick every day. And it's terrible looking. And
it's weird. The conversation, like, I wanted to enjoy it. I enjoyed the R-rated tone and language between the two of them. But again, you still get into this just doesn't feel like my Batman or my Joker with the whole, like, I will fucking kill you. And it's like, okay, like, in real life, I would want Batman to kill the Joker. If Joker's gonna break out of prison 50 different fucking times, like, someone eventually just needs to give him a death sentence or something. Like,
yeah, end him.
It's a whole nother conversation for another day about what we do in real life with these people. But there's something about this that just felt super awkward. The fact that they cut this into the end of the movie, to me, signifies we are never going to get Snyder anything else with DC. No. Because if there was a fucking chance, I don't think they would have put that scene in there. Because that literally felt like 2 or 3 movies ahead. Not even the next movie. Like, if they made Justice League Part 2, I still don't think we'd get to that point in Justice League Part 2.
Or at least
that felt like Justice League 4 to me.
Hopefully, if it was paced out correctly. But given the track record we've had, I think it was about to be the next movie.
Yeah, fair. But yeah, from a correct pacing, I would have said that's 3 or 4. But it's still... It didn't belong in the movie at all. The whole vision did not belong at the end of this movie at all. And I don't know. I think the problem for me is every aspect about this feels like it's the alternate version. They can't, for some reason, give us the definitive version. They need to give us a weird spin on every element that's in this DCEU. And it just feels strange because the Joker and Batman have that pointed conversation, and for some reason it doesn't feel like Joker and Batman talking. The dialogue just doesn't seem right. And I so many people seem to really, really like it, and I'm struggling with it. I don't get why people are raving about it so much. I think some of the rawness is what people like, and hearing Batman say fuck makes a lot of dudes get really horny for some reason.
I'm Batman. I curse now because Joker curses, so I curse now.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It was disappointing to me. I would rather have it been cut out completely.
I don't understand the things that Warner Brothers wants and Snyder want in terms of the end goal. Can totally be done in better ways. I've heard Warner Brothers want to bring Supergirl into, like, the cinematic universe. Now, I personally like the idea that if, like, Henry Cavill's Superman stops being effective, they need someone else to answer the call, and so Supergirl coming up to answer the call makes sense. But the problem is Warner Brothers would probably either just fire Henry Cavill or kill his Superman and be like, hey, now Supergirl, because women and we want money. What I think should happen instead of fucking Injustice for the millionth time is give Henry Cavill the All-Star Superman arc. Give him the arc where Superman eventually starts dying of basically super cancer, where his cells are breaking apart and he's just... there's more explanation in the comic. It's been a long time since I've read it, but he's basically sick and it's incurable. But so is the Sun. The Sun is sick, but he can fix it because he's Superman, and who else knows the Sun better than the man who eats it every day? So he ends up sacrificing himself basically to go into the Sun and to fix it, like physically himself. And there's it's kind of left open-ended on whether or not he's alive in there or whether or not he died in there. But the point is like, that's Superman's, like, that's a version of his story coming to an end. I'd be okay with that being Henry Cavill's arc. Like, he's around for years, he does Superman, he has a kid with Lois, and, like, eventually he ends up being sick, and Henry Cavill, in his all, like, slow-motion operatic music wisdom that Snyder constantly puts on him, comes to the decision that I need to fix the Sun, I need to save the Earth one more time, and it leads to him going to the Sun, and he passes the mantle of protecting the world onto Supergirl and leaves. There you go, Warner Brothers. There's your fucking Supergirl arc. There's where you get your Supergirl and a satisfying Superman story. You can have both, but you suck at your jobs. So we have all this bullshit now that we spent so long talking about.
Yeah, all right. So that is our thoughts. That is our thoughts on the Snyder Cut. So we're going to move on to our movie assignments. John, you want to get us started off with your movie this week, or do you want to hear from me first? You choose.
We can get mine out of the way because it's going to be short. So we audibled. I was going to watch the BFG. That got taken off of Disney Plus. It's now on Netflix because it moved, I guess. So I could still watch it in the future. I'll get to that. But for now, I watched Den of Thieves. 2.5-hour movie of Gerard Butler being a shitty cop following a bunch of shitty criminals, trying to catch them before they rob a bank. So basically, it's this gang of criminals who are headed up by an ex-military guy or whatever, and his friend who is played by 50 Cent, who doesn't do a terrible job in this movie, but also doesn't do a good job because he just basically has one facial expression through the whole movie, and that's all he needed. Fine, whatever. He's a rapper, not an actor. But the plan is to rob the Federal Reserve, if I remember correctly. It's the biggest bank in the country, and it's never been robbed. I wonder why. So, cool, that's nice. They lay out the plan of how to do it, and the guy who's in charge, has all these details, and they're like, how do you have all these details? He's like, trust me, I just know them. I got a source. And then they don't proceed to do the bank robbery for an hour and a half, because there's this crazy long lead up to the actual doing of the job that it's all justified. They end up using everything, but the job itself takes so fucking long to actually get into gear and get to the point where you're like, oh, we're in the job. I thought we were doing a separate job. But no, this is all one job. I didn't realize that. This is taking way too long. And I hate that. I don't know who the main character is, because the character that this film ends on is, I cannot remember his name as an individual, but I remember that he is Ice Cube's son.
That's O'Shea Jackson Jr.
O'Shea Jackson Jr. does a decent job, but he's not given a ton to work with here. The movie ends on him because there's a surprise at the end of the movie. It's underwhelming and blah. It feels very Oceans, like they're trying to do that kind of, there's this twist at the end, you didn't realize this all along, for the Ocean movies try to do with their heists and whatnot. It doesn't work as well, and I don't even really like the Ocean movies that much. Gerard Butler in this film could go get fucked. Him and his entire cop team. They are part of the special crimes unit. They're supposed to be really good at their job, but they're loose cannons. So they tell the FBI to go fuck themselves. They don't play by the rules. But here's the problem. Gerard Butler is seen multiple times in this movie being overly cruel to people. He does coke and other drugs and alcohol and bangs hookers and such. I'm saying this all rather blatantly because he's just right there in the film. He just does it. And then you find out he's got a wife and kids. And there's a plot point in this movie where he accidentally texted his wife something he meant to text to someone else, and it was something to do about having sex with somebody. And so she realizes he's been cheating on her all this time. She leaves and takes the kids. You're supposed to be sad for him, but I'm like, no, fuck him.
Why am I supposed to feel sad for him?
He's a shitty, mean cop who beats people, and he cheats on his wife and does drugs and alcohol and is out all the time and is never home, doesn't help raise his kids. She's like, you're not here. You're out all night. You're gone. I'm like, so fuck him. So I don't like him. I don't like any of the crew, the gangster crew, the criminals, because I'm not given a reason to sympathize with them. 50 Cent has a daughter where there's a scene that she's about to get taken to prom. And so he and his other friends in the gang intimidate the guy with the whole you break my girl's heart, I'm going to shoot your balls off stereotype man thing that people do. But it's just such a stereotype at this point. It's such a meme that the man takes the man off to the side and says, you break my girl's heart, I'm going to break your kneecaps. Mm-hmm. That it doesn't feel like an actual character moment for any of them. It just feels like them playing a joke on this guy by scaring the shit out of him into taking the girl to prom and then bringing her back by 11 and no later, or we will kill you. And it's just like, okay, cool.
Jeez.
Once he leaves the room, they're all like, hey, yeah, and they're like high-fiving and stuff. I'm like, cool, but I don't care about any of you. Oh, and at the end, a bunch of people are dead, and I'm not sad about any of it. So, 5 stars. This movie is boring. It's not good. It's written and directed by the same guy who made London is Falling, and I love that movie.
Right.
A lot of people hate that movie.
I saw that on IMDb.
But
just to clarify, 5 out of 10, right?
Yes,
not 5 out of 5.
10.
Okay,
5 stars.
just wanted to clarify. Okay.
5 out of 10.
All right, cool. Yeah. Man, that hurts to hear because one of the comments that I've heard about one of the trends going around social media is, not all men recently. And my clapback to that is, I'm not the first one to say it, but men don't even trust other men. Have you heard the way that brothers and fathers talk to potential love interests to their daughters?
Yeah.
Like, it's always, I will fucking kill you, or I will break your kneecaps, or I will destroy you. And because they don't trust men.
Yeah.
That's a fucking problem.
It's not great. Yeah. There is a such thing. There is a such thing as toxic masculinity. In the sense that there is also the opposite. But it is expected and memed that men will tell the boys that are taking their girls out on dates, you touch any part of my daughter, I'm going to cut that part of your body off.
Yo.
It's like, well, okay, calm down. Also, yeah, guys, don't rape girls. Like, it's such a circular pattern because, like, of course I wanted to kiss and hug the girls I took out on dates and such, but, like, that was literally always the extent of my intentions. But I was given the, like, don't hurt my daughter talk by one of my girlfriends years ago. It was really awkward and weird. The man was huge and would have hurt me if he wanted to. But, like, I'm okay. I know you're trying to protect your daughter, but, like, I honestly was thinking like a kiss would be the most I'd get.
Yeah, I have been on the receiving end of that with my first girlfriend back in high school. She had a couple of brothers, and like they literally told me it was not their job to be my friend. It was their job to like put me in my place and to watch me. And I'm like, okay, long term, like if we were to have gotten married and we were going to be brother-in-laws, like we're going to be family.
Relationship going to be healthy? Yeah.
Like I want to be friends with you. Like I'm marrying into the family. Like that's the whole point of dating is to figure out if you can marry or not. So if you want me to take this seriously, then you should want to be my friend and not want to be my bully.
And like, yes, be protective of your loved ones. But if the first instinct you have is this person needs to be told that I will kill them, maybe there's red flags that are telling you just say no to them and move on to the next person.
And also, if the only way to protect your daughter is through the threat and intimidation of physical violence, like you've got some problems outside of that particular situation. Like you shouldn't. There's more to deal with in your family than my daughter might get kissed tonight.
Yeah.
But anyway,
long
Den of Thieves.
Story short, Den of Thieves is generic.
This movie seems right up your alley, and I'm so disappointed that it was just generic as hell.
Yeah, I am too. And there's like a Den of Thieves 2 on the IMDb like docket.
That's like and they're in pre-production supposedly.
Yeah, they totally like stare at the camera at the end of the film. They're like, yeah, Den of Thieves 2 is happening. So like before this movie came out, they were planning on a sequel. Which aside from the O'Shea Jackson Jr. character, none of the other characters justify further exploration. Absolutely zero. If Gerard Butler is in the second one, they better do some cleanup on him fucking pronto. Yep, he's listed. Because he's just a shithead in this film. So you get to work, y'all.
That's rough. Yeah, O'Shea Jackson Jr. is a great young actor. Definitely go check out some of his other works. I think my favorite performance from him so far, most people are going to know him as playing his dad Ice Cube in Straight Outta Compton. But Ingrid Goes West is my favorite performance from him. He is really good. And that is a cringe humor movie. Cringe to the nth degree kind of humor, but he's great in that movie.
Nice.
All right, you want to hear about 47 Ronin?
That brings us to your 4-hour epic, the 47 Ronin, which is the original samurai legend from the East. What did you think of this 4-hour, 2-part film?
All right, so 47 Ronin. Okay, so I was super unfamiliar with this movie, so I'm going to just assume that most other people are as well. So the 47 Ronin is a movie that was made in the early 1940s, and it covers a really important legendary story in Japanese history, but I'll say Japan's history. The country of Japan takes place in, I believe, like 1701 through 1704. The movie is set over a period of 3 years, and I believe that's the time period that it's set in. It is a dense and politically complicated movie. It is so much more of a drama than any kind of an action movie that I thought it was going to be. Seven Samurai is so much of an action movie. This movie honestly doesn't have any fight scenes or action in the entire movie. So I was genuinely surprised by that. This movie, I'm gonna see if I can coherently explain what this movie is about in 10 seconds or less. This movie is about a group of 47 Ronin. A Ronin is someone who used to be a samurai, but now they're not serving a master, so they're called Ronin instead. A group of 47 of these Ronin who try to avenge the death of their former master. That's it in a nutshell. What makes this movie so complicated is the politics that get that are in this movie, and this is based on a true story from what I can tell. Some places call this a legend. Some places call this like a historical event. In my research online, I had some issues trying to figure out if this was a real story or not, but everything that I could read not everything, more things that I read said it was real, and fewer things said it was legend. So I am not going to sit here and act like I'm an expert on the movie. There may be some inaccuracies in what I'm about to say, but basically what happens is at the beginning of the movie, there's this big party going on where the shogun has a bunch of like lords and masters like coming to this party, and two lords get into it, and one of them publicly embarrasses, ridicules, and humiliates this other kind of weaker guy. The weaker guy gets pissed and later tries to assassinate the rude guy. This causes a whole big ruckus. The shogun decides to only punish one guy, the guy who tried to assassinate the other, and punishes him by sentencing him to end his own life. I think it's harakiri. Apologies about the pronunciation, but it's essentially when you see samurais end their own life by stabbing themselves in the gut at the same time someone else takes their head. So that all goes down in the first 20-30 minutes of the movie. And from there on, that master, the one who died, his entire family, his entire estate, his entire, using modern language, you would say something like gang, they're all just screwed. There is no political umbrella. There is no protection. All of their castles are taken away. Their land is taken away. And they are basically just fucking homeless. So all of
scorched earth kind of shit.
Yeah. So he had about 300 samurai under his reign or under his control before he was sentenced to death. And they're all just screwed over. And from there on, like 20-30 minutes into the movie, from there on, it is all about what do we do now? And long and short of it is they decide, well, our lives are forfeit. We might as well just get the revenge that we want to get and just check out after that. So, because they know that by getting revenge, they will be condemned as criminals because their whole plan is to kill the lord that disrespected their lord. Very dense, very complicated, but this movie's all about revenge and it's all about honor. Those are really the two big themes. These 300 samurai get down to 47 Ronin. There's about 50 loyal ones that remain after about a period of 3 years, and they all basically act really like they don't plan on doing anything. They kind of lull their enemy to sleep, and then in the middle of the night one day, 3 years later, they storm this dude's castle and kill him. So that is the whole story of the movie. 47 Ronin it's a really, really good movie for the age, for the time, the story, the characters. there's definitely a really fascinating element to this movie. I felt like I was seeing something that I would never seen a movie like this before. So that was a really, really cool angle for me. From an entertainment perspective, I would go for Seven Samurai over 47 Ronin. Mainly because the 47 Ronin doesn't actually show the castle attack. You find out that it happened because a couple of really important women in the story get a letter, and they find out they're reading the letter out loud about, we have stormed the castle, we have avenged our lord, we have cut off his head, yada, yada, yada. And that's how you as the audience find out that that's what's happened. And I was like, all right, we're reading the letter. This is what's happening. We've got an hour left in the movie, so surely we're about to cut to the attack, and now we're going to get to see it happen with our own eyes. No, that's not what happens.
Not at all.
You don't see two samurai blades cross with each other once in this movie that I can remember.
Weird.
And yeah, you would think a
Much
movie...
different than Keanu Reeves' version.
Oh, with the magic and the dragons and the witches. I might watch that one just for shits and giggles one day.
If it's ever on streaming, I'll let you know.
Have you seen it?
No, I mean, I saw some of it. I was at someone's house and it was on, but it's not streaming right now. It's only on Hulu Premium subscription, which means like Stars or something.
Yeah, okay. So that is the 3 hour mark when you find out that they have gotten their revenge. And the last hour of the movie, it's about their own death. Because what happens is, since they killed a lord, they have committed a crime. Now, the whole country is on their side. They're all basically like, yeah, you guys got fucked. Go get your revenge. How can we help you go get your revenge?
Get them.
And so they got their revenge. They killed the other lord, but the problem is they are now criminals in the eyes of the law. So they are all sentenced to death. Here's the weird thing. I'm an American. So the concept of an honorable execution by suicide scares the shit out of me. So it was very strange to spend an hour of this movie watching these guys get really excited when they're sentenced to death by suicide. And it's about an honor element. Like it's all about honor. And it's strange to me. I have a very different worldview than they do. The last thing I ever want to do is stick a knife in my own gut and go left to right. That's just not something I'd ever want to do.
Yeah. I have an issue with this is also in a Keanu Reeves movie, and it also is in a movie with to bring Breaking Bad into this. It's also a movie with Bryan Cranston. I say Breaking Bad because Logan's watching that right now.
Rewatching. Oh yeah, it's a good show.
So it's the whole cut up the arm thing.
Oh sure.
That form. So self harm. That specific kind of self harm really me out. Also, anyone listening, if you're thinking about hurting yourself, don't. Please don't. So just so we know, like we're talking about suicide here in the 47 Ronin film. It is a cultural factor for samurai in history.
Of course.
And it is done when they feel there is literally no other option for the sake of their honor, for the sake of their future. It's a very sad reality that anyone ever committed what is seppuku, and I'm probably butchering how you actually pronounce that. So, that sounds like it's a very dark final hour of the film.
It was. And they bring in some new characters and stuff. Like there's this young guy, there's a young Ronin who had a fiance, and the fiance is like, yo, what the fuck? You're about to go cure yourself? Like, we're supposed to get married. And like, that's a huge part of the last hour of the movie. So this is an extremely human movie. It's a very, very intimate dialogue driven movie. There's very little, next to none action in this movie. And it's all about the themes of honor and of revenge. And once they get the revenge, it pretty much just shifts to, okay, now let's just talk about our honor. And it is rough. It's sad. It's dark. It's depressing. I would totally go for Seven Samurai over this movie every day of the week. But I'm glad that I watched this. I think this is nothing like the Keanu Reeves. I've only seen the trailer for the Keanu Reeves one, but yeesh. So I definitely think 47 Ronin is a great movie. I think this is a really, really strong movie. It's a really good drama, especially for the age that it came out in. It's cool now to have seen, let's see, I believe it came out in 1941? I'm gonna look that up. Yeah, 41.
Yeah.
This came out the same year that I believe Citizen Kane came out. So it's interesting to me to have recently watched two movies that are generally regarded as some of the best of all time coming out the same year on different sides of the planet, and just seeing the different shooting techniques, cinematography, the different uses of score, the way that characters move around on the screen in the eye of the camera. There's so many things about this movie that were really, really fascinating to watch. And you feel like you're plugging into a kind of brain you've never plugged into before with this. So I enjoyed it from that perspective. Overall, this is a hard movie to recommend. Like, I don't know that anyone is your average Joe today would enjoy watching this movie. Like, I definitely would not try to get my wife to sit down and watch it. Not that my wife is an average Joe, but it's not for her in particular. And I can't.
The typical consumer will not sit down for a 4-hour film from 1941,
Yes.
Specifically one that they're not culturally privy to.
Sure.
In the sense that there are a lot of things that you're just not going to catch if you're not well versed, somewhat at least on a passive level, with the samurai culture, such as like people who enjoy The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise. You may not necessarily enjoy a 47 Ronin, because I'm sure there's a lot of things that The Last Samurai, shot from a Western perspective, did very different when addressing samurai than 47 Ronin does.
Yep. 47 Ronin is so much more of a drama. So from that perspective, it will disappoint you if you walk in expecting a lot of action. And I didn't expect much action. I expected one action scene, and I once I got to the intermission of the movie, I was so confused. I spent like 30 minutes just researching the story online that I went back into part 2. And I'm glad I did, because I knew this castle scene was coming, and I thought it was going to be in the movie, and then it just got mentioned. So that to me was an element that makes it difficult to recommend. If catching up old movies for the sake of catching up with old movies is your jam, this is totally one you could watch. You're not going to fall asleep in this. The dialogue snaps, dude. It's very snazzy in this movie. A very electric feel to it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Particularly in the first 30 minutes of the movie, because you've got some what I would call like police investigators looking into the situation, trying to figure out like what's the best decision to make here about these two lords who have gone at it against each other. And there's some awesome dialogue that happens in that particular scene. Basically, anytime you've got people who are really fucking pissed at each other, it's awesome to watch on screen. So dialogue is super, super strong in this movie. I gave this an 8 out of 10, and don't really plan on going back to this one. I'm definitely going to go back to Seven Samurai. I'm already thinking about watching that again sometime soon. But 47 Ronin is one of those movies I've seen once, and just I don't feel a strong desire to go back. So I'm going to go with an 8 out of 10.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, despite its length, and especially since you had to watch a 4-hour Snyder movie, a 4-hour samurai movie in the same week. I'm sure that was an effort. So cool. I'm glad you had that experience.
All right, so that's pretty much my overall thoughts. 8 out of 10. Probably wouldn't watch it again, but I enjoyed the experience, and I'm glad that I did. So that's it for 47 Ronin.
Nice. So that brings us to our assigning section. So real quick, I'm going to assign you one that I don't think I've actually ever seen this film. And that's weird, because I've seen most of Tom Hanks's stuff. I think maybe I saw it as a child and I just don't remember it, but it's the movie Big.
Big. Nice.
This film, I've heard, hasn't really aged very well, but you know, maybe people exaggerate, I couldn't tell you, but the basic plot of this, for people who don't know Tom Hanks is Big, is after a wish turns a 12-year-old Josh Baskin into a 30-year-old man, who's played by Tom Hanks, he heads to New York City and gets a low-level job at Macmillan Toy Company. A chance encounter with the owner of that company leads to a promotion testing new toys. Soon, a fellow employee, Susan Lawrence, takes a romantic interest in Josh. However, the pressure of living as an adult begins to overwhelm him, and he longs to return to his simple former life as a boy. I can't say I blame him. I already relate. Though the concept of a 12-year-old turning into a man is pretty creepy. I wouldn't have wanted to be a full-on 30-year-old when I was 12. The haptic feedback of that would have just been too much. But I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on this, specifically since you know you've never seen this, so you'll be seeing it in modern eyes. So I'm curious.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I think I'm going to be familiar with kind of the sense of the movie because it seems like a 13 going on 30 or, you know, not quite Freaky Friday, but still that out-of-body comedy, awkward, cringe kind of, you know, man out of water or fish out of water, fish out of water kind of experience. So, yeah, I'm excited to check this out. I mean, this movie, a lot of people seem to really like this movie. I don't have a strong, I don't have a whole lot of knowledge when it comes to the culture around this movie. I don't hear people talk about this one very often. I do know there's that piano dance scene. That's really the one scene that I'm like consciously aware of. Right.
Yeah.
That's about it. Yeah, I'm excited to check this out. Remind me, which platform is this on?
It's on Disney Plus.
Disney Plus. All right. I'm excited to check this out. Well, man, I wish I had assigned you something like 17 again? The Opposite Story with Zac Efron. But that is...
I've almost clicked on that a couple times.
Now that I was thinking about it, I wish I'd done that. Or I could have just thrown BFG your way because that has big in the title too.
Yeah, it's true. But what is it that I will be watching this week?
But I am, well, actually, now that I think about it, I'm still throwing something really, really big your way, and that is Kong Skull Island, because he is a big boy.
Yeah, not heard good things.
No, it's not a good movie. It's I would say it's a rough movie. All I'll say is, if you just need to fast forward through the human character scenes to get to the Kong monster scenes, whatever you need to do to get prepared for the upcoming Kong Godzilla movie.
Whatever it is you need.
Whatever you need, honey. Yeah, this movie sucks. I don't care for it. And I could talk about it right now, but I'll save my thoughts for next week. So Kong Skull Island in preparation of the new Kong Godzilla movie. The Kong himself and some of the monsters that he fights are pretty interesting. Oddly enough, the best character in this movie is John C. Reilly. I can't believe I'm saying that, but he is the character that, like, they should have had way more of him in here. So be on the lookout for I would say surprising performance from John C. Reilly, although I don't think there's a good performance in this movie. But it's weird. You basically have a bunch of MCU level actors in a really bad Kong Skull Island movie. So I'm curious to know what you think about this one. I could probably take a guess as to what you're gonna say, but I think this is you like these big action spectacle, you know, Pacific Rim Godzilla type experiences. So this is one that I think you should check out this week since we've got Godzilla coming up so soon.
Yeah, and I've seen Godzilla from 2014. I saw Godzilla King of Monsters. Skipped this boy, and obviously if at some point I'll see Kong versus Godzilla or Godzilla versus Kong, whatever the fuck. The trailers for Godzilla versus Kong have been saying, like, critic reviews have been popping up on the trailers. And one of them was better than Godzilla King of Monsters. And I'm like, that's a low ass bar.
Yeah, that's a low bar.
I don't think the bar has gotten extremely high for Godzilla for a very long time. But specifically this set of films, while Godzilla itself is cool and the action scenes are awesome, sound design great, the plot has always sucked. So I'm not surprised that Kong has been receiving the same treatment. Even the Peter Jackson King Kong, which I've been curious to rewatch at some point, had issues. So I don't expect this to be a masterpiece by any means. So I'm coming in with low expectations. So we'll see what I see next week about Kong Skull Island.
Nice. And Godzilla vs. Kong comes out later this week. It looks like you could I'm looking at movie theater tickets for Wednesday night of this week. So it looks like it's dropping on March 31st.
Does it come out on HBO Max as well?
I think so. See it in theaters and on HBO Max.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was doing a in tandem release.
Nice.
So I think it's coming out. It's coming out soon. It's around Zikona, so I'll probably see that.
Yeah.
So we'll probably talk about that at some point in the near future.
I'll try. I'm not committing, but I'll try to check this out before we watch, before we record next, so we can talk about all kinds of Godzilla and Kong next week.
Nice Zilla content. But if you want more content like the Zilla and the Kongy Boy, subscribe, follow, like, Twitter, Facebook. We've got all of the things. All of the things. It's all down in the description. You can follow us on any of that stuff. I tweeted out this last week when we didn't have an episode. I let everyone know on Twitter and on Facebook, yo, this is what's happening, this is why it's happening. If you want in on that kind of information and you're not just left hanging, well then give us a follow. I'm much more active on Twitter than on Facebook, so take that as you will. Otherwise, we appreciate your time with us and getting to the end of this very long episode that was like 2/3 Snyder Cut and 1/3 Film Rush. And we will see you next week for a more Film Rushy type episode where we do more recommends of movies and TV shows than we did this time around. We hope you enjoyed it and you have a good rest of your week. Logan, let's say goodbye.
Why did you say that name? Your mom's name's like my mom's name. What does it all mean? Martha! No.